Welcome into the Book It podcast. I'm your host, Brendan Moran. Thanks for joining. If you're an event or equipment rental business owner or a part of their team, you found yourself in the right place. Today, we're going to be talking about our part 2 of where to hire your best part-time and seasonal applicants. We started with the who, now we're on the where. So let's dive right in. We're on tip number 5. This tip is vastly underutilized, and that is to take advantage of the gig economy. Now, we all know what gig work is. Gig work is how we get from A to B using Uber and Lyft and all those other platforms. It's how we get our food through Uber Eats and DoorDash. It's also a growing area in labor and other non-skilled positions. And so you may not know it, but there's a bunch of applications out there that people are using to find gig work. Now, one option is to go through that platform and to find gig workers and have those gig workers show up to a job site or to your warehouse or wherever it is that you need them. So that's one option, but there is a deeper option that I'd like for us to look into. This is part of how you vet who you would want to bring onto your team off of that platform. So first and foremost, I had an individual that showed up to a bunch of different postings that I put onto a specific platform. Excellent worker, always showed up, was pleasant with the rest of our staff. And our staff came back and said, hey, this individual is actually looking to come on to our company. And part of the reason for that is, guess what the gig platform does? Well, it takes a percentage of the earnings. Well, guess what we would pay them? More than what the platform pays them. And we cut out the middleman. So it's cheaper actually for all of us. What we can do is find these platforms, interview these people through what is effectively a working interview and bring them on that way. Now, we don't just have to do it through that platform because gig workers are often looking at Craigslist. They're looking at Facebook. They're looking at Indeed, Monster, and ZipRecruiter, and all these other platforms looking either for more gig work or maybe for another part-time job or potentially for a full-time job. And what you may not understand about gig workers is many of them do gig work because they enjoy a more autonomous lifestyle. So they'll have multiple different streams of income through a lot of different platforms and a lot of different companies. And that enables them to live the life that they want to live. They don't want to go to work at a certain point in time. They simply won't pick up a shift for that time. And like it or not, that is actually something that we can absolutely tap into. So when we're recruiting, what we very intentionally want to do is try to find active gig workers. These are individuals that also understand seasonality within roles. If you don't have a shift for them on a given week, they're going to fill that space with another gig platform. With that being said, yes, do we have some competition between us and the other work that they have going on? Absolutely. But when you bring them on, if they are a reliable individual that shows up for their shifts, if they've made that commitment to you, yes, I will work that shift next Saturday, and they actually do show up, that's the individual that you're looking for. You're not necessarily just looking for the individual that's going to say, hey, I found something for later today. It's at the same time as my shift, but they're going to pay me $2 more. So I'm going to go work that shift. That's not the individual that you want to hire. And if you've accidentally hired this individual, you need to move on from them immediately. Because once someone makes a commitment, they need to stick with that commitment. And that's the idea of how we want to hire people. Lastly, gig workers are known for having a grinded out mentality. So some gig workers, they have gig work that's on the side of what they do through their 9 to 5. And so maybe our work is something that can replace that. Maybe it's something that they can do on top of it. But all that is to be said, these are individuals, by and large, that are doing anything that they can to get by. And so this is exactly the type of individual that we want to bring into the business because they will show up. They will do what we ask them to do. They are very accustomed to doing what it takes to get their paycheck. Now we're going to move on to tip number 6. Now this might be my favorite tip. And I was not exaggerating when I said that this might blow your mind. If you haven't utilized this strategy before, you absolutely need to tap into this. So what I want you to do is picture your average event rental business. A lot of these tips are very closely aligned with an event rental company. We'll do another segment on equipment rental hiring at some later point, but by and large, what you will find is many event rental companies have a fairly large geographic area that they service. And if they don't, one of the reasons why they say that is because they understand that the further out you go, the more costs that you assume. And even with this tip, that is still the case, but we're actually going to lower that cost down. Now, if you've listened to some of my earlier episodes, you will know that I've said that I was able to increase the total amount of work that my teams did without increasing our labor costs. And there was a number of different things that we did to affect that. And the biggest one is this tip right here. You hire individuals close to where the work is happening. So case in point, I had work that we consistently did that was 2 to 3 hours away, which is a total of 4 to 6 hours round trip. Now, instead of sending out a full truckload of people, I can send one person in a truck and I can have as many people as I have employees in that other location arrive on site to work with that individual. The beautiful part about this is also that you'll find some people don't have enough time for those longer shifts where there's a lot of hours in between, but you will find other people that are able to spend a smaller amount of time reserved for that single job. Additionally, if you have a very large event, this can help you staff more than the number of people that fit into the truck alone. So your standard 26-foot box truck is going to hold 3 people. Well, if you need more than 3 people on that job, you either have to hire someone out there or do some gig work or something else. And most of the time, if you're just doing gig workers through a random platform, these are individuals that are not trained on your systems. They don't know your team, and it's very hit or miss who shows up. I've utilized plenty of these platforms. I've had some great people show up, some of which I've hired, and I've had some incredibly poor workers show up at a very critical event that was very high profile, and we were billing a lot of money to these clients for this work. And yet we're showing up with a crew that's just not cutting it. And so when we actually hire individuals out in locations, it gives us a lot more control over the quality that they are. And if they're not showing up or they're not doing a good job, we move on from them and we find someone else. The other benefit is it also increases our total pool of available labor. So when I talked to you in our last episode where we talked about the where we are going to hire, I talked about proximity being very important. If in our geographic location where our warehouse is located, if we can hire as many people close to that as possible, that is a very good strategy. Now, when we bridge outside of that, we don't necessarily want as many of those people coming to our location. Now, if someone is reliable and they happen to live 45 minutes away, that's great. That's fantastic. That's good for you. That's good for them. By and large, you will find the closer that people are, the more likely they are to stick to their shifts. We want to lower the barriers of getting people into the business and in and on time for their shift. When we zoom out, proximity brings on a whole nother world within our business, where now I have a much larger labor pool to pull from. So I can hire the best people within a 10, 15, 20-minute radius of my business, and then I can go to another city, another location, and I can also hire the 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 best available gig or part-time or seasonal workers I can find in that location. And that gives us more labor markets to tap into. In addition, bringing back another one of our discussions on referrals, many of the people that are already working for your business may have acquaintances or family members who don't necessarily live in close proximity to the business. So in their mind, they're thinking to themselves, they live an hour away. I don't know that that's the right fit for them. Or they don't have a license. I don't know that this is the right fit for them. Well, the good news is if we can find something close by, maybe they don't need a license, or they don't need to travel an hour to get to work. They'll need to travel 10 or 15 minutes themselves. And so what this enables us to do is have better, more efficient labor usage. And it also, of course, because we're talking about hiring, it allows us to tap into these other markets and find the best and most quality people. So one thing that I hear time and time again is, well, good workers are hard to find. Now, This entire series is designed to dispel that and understand that we just haven't adequately put the right strategies in place. And with just this one, we know that if we have access to a broader number of people, we're more likely to find the right person. All right, that's tip number 6. Now it's time for my bonus tip, which is, how do we track that? Now we know where they're at. How are we going to get eyes on our job listing? Now, depending on who you talk to, they're going to say, well, just make sure you put in all the tips and all the perks and just all the cool things that they get to do, and make sure that they know that we're a community, we're a family, we're this, we're that, we're all these things. And I have to say, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with that. But I think what sounds cool to you is not always what sounds cool to the person that's actually applying for the job. So when we know the who and we know where, that gives us an indication on how we are going to attract that individual. So what's going to attract someone that's younger or middle-aged or a little bit older, or someone that's male versus female, someone that's already working versus someone that's already a gig worker, or anything else? All of these, the hook on this is going to be different because it's trying to attract a different type of person. So we cannot just have one uniform listing, and AI is great with this. If you put in, here's my basic job description, and I'm trying to attract this specific type of person. I'm looking for someone that's young, they're athletic, they have a flexible schedule, they're more likely a student or freshly out of high school. Can you make a listing that would attract this individual? Make it no more than 200 words. And then you do that with every single type and persona of the individual that you're looking for. This is going to help you narrow in a listing that's designed to attract the person that you want in your business. So all of this starts with, what are we titling the job description? Because most often what they are is day laborer, driver, part-time event help. I have to be honest with you. I struggled to say those words and to sound enthusiastic. I'm sure it looked like it on my face. Now, what if we asked a question? What if we prompted something in the information that we provided? Let me give you an example. Are you looking for some extra cash? Are you currently doing gig work? Need a second job that actually pays well? Flexible work for students. Part-time work for full-time professionals. Tired of your gym membership? Get paid to work out. Weekend-only shifts. Short evening shifts available. Visit the most beautiful places in our area. Build once-in-a-lifetime events with us. My recommendation is this. Whoever it is that you're looking for, come up with a list of things that you can title a job description and trial those. So you can take that list, you can expand upon that list and start putting out different ones and seeing who applies for them. When you collect that data and it's in front of you, you may notice 2, 3, 4 of those might jump out, and you're getting a lot of applicants on some of them and less on others. When you look into those and you start to interview people, you may find that some of the people that applied for come build beautiful events with us thought, well, maybe that didn't involve physical labor. Okay, so maybe we scratch that one. Others of them might be, are you currently a gig worker? And you get a bunch of applicants from that, and a lot of them are comfortable with very physical labor. So when you start to track your data, don't just look at the numbers of people coming in, look at the quality of applicants, and then even further, once you hire those individuals, trace that back to where did you find them? What was the hook? And when you actually interview them, what stood out in the information that you saw that we posted? That's really good data to get. Well, I saw that you were looking for weekend-only people. That's actually really what I'm looking for. Okay, great. Do you normally just search on this website, or do you search on other websites? Oh, yeah, I kind of search for jobs on a bunch of different websites. Do you mind me asking, what are some of those other websites? We're always looking for ways to improve our reach to people like you. Oh, yeah, no, I look here and I look there and I look here. Oh, I haven't heard of that one. Oh, yeah, no, it's actually kind of new. Here, I'll just pull it up on my phone and I'll show you. This is how we beat the competition, with intention, with data, with asking the right questions, and by making systems that are actually built off the data, not just after gut feelings. Gut feelings can be great. We don't want to build a system off of gut feelings. So a headline at the top of your job description accomplishes two things. One is it's going to identify with the who that you're looking for. And the second is it's going to filter out the applicants that don't match that who. Most of the people are not going to read the body of what it is that you put in there. So I'm going to encourage you to actually cut the majority of that information. A job description is incredibly important. It's even more important once you've interviewed them to really make sure, hey, is this information something you're fully comfortable doing day in and day out in a shift? Vet them after you get them in. You want to hook them with the most important information. So that is, what's the shift? What are some of the non-negotiables? We only hire people that show up. Do you think that's important? When I hired people, I told them that the first time they no-call, no-showed, they would no longer be an employee with the company. I went an entire active season without having a single no-call, no-show. And it's because I drew the line in the sand. And at the very start of that relationship, when I interviewed them, I told them, this is a non-negotiable. If you need to call out, you need to let me know before the shift. And we'll get into the interviewing and some of that expectation settings later on. So you have some stuff to look forward to, including how on earth I got people to communicate with me. But at least as far as this story goes, what's most important is we want to get those non-negotiables out of the way. Years and years and years ago, I interviewed for a company that was a fish warehouse. Well, it was for a work inside of their office, but because the office was paired up with the warehouse, the office smelled like fish. So what did they ask me? Are you comfortable with the smell of fish? This is a location that smells like fish. We need to do the same thing because eventually when someone shows up on day one, they're going to say, something smells fishy here. And it's because we didn't communicate the most important things. So we want to take 5, 6, 7, 8 things, whatever that ends up being, and it's what are the core elements of this job? It's physical. It requires some schedule flexibility. It pays this amount per hour. Anything else that's just very much to the core of it. And we want to have that very simple job description there. When we get to the interview part of what we're going to be talking about, it's actually even more helpful that they don't have a full job description. And it's not because we're trying to hide something. We're trying to control information so we get the best response. And the best response is the most honest and accurate response. How many times have we showed up to interviews knowing everything that's expected of us? And even then, before we answer a question, an interviewer says, well, what would you do in a situation where there was a customer and there was a customer service issue? Would you do this, or would you do this, or would you do this? And they give you all the options and you're like, well, one of those is clearly the best option. So I'm going to go with that one. Well, why would you do that? Oh, because I think it's the best option. It's obviously what I've done every other time. Oh, wow. No, that's great. That's so cool. That's awesome. Well, the problem with that is we fed them the answer and they're just repeating it back to us. And now we think they're the best thing since sliced bread. What we don't want to do is give them all the answers to the test, because then when we actually test to see if this is the right opportunity, they're going to tell us whatever it is that we want to hear. So give them just the core information so we can vet them. And then when we actually bring them in, we want to be able to say, hey, what do you think about this? Or what's your experience with this? Or how would you handle this type of situation? And at the very end of the interview, then we tell them everything that they want to know about that position. We're going to give them that information only when they've given us the information that we need to know to vet them accordingly. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Book It podcast. I'll see you on the next one.